Hello, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Carl E. Long, and welcome to my Let's Talk podcast, guys. Welcome. I thank you so much for joining me again today. Let's get right into what America is talking about. Let's get right into it. It's been a busy week. It's only been like about 3 weeks since this administration has taken on in the White House, and I'm telling you, I can't keep up. I'm trying very hard, but there's a lot of stuff going. The zone is being flooded. You need to check out that episode about flooding the zone and what that means. But here we go. So let's just talk about some things here today. Crisis. Are we in a constitutional crisis? Are we? Do you remember I was talking about in a previous episode of I am on Trump watch because if something happens where one of our fail states of our three branches of government, our constitutional checks and balances, is compromised, then we're going to be in a constitutional crisis. Yes, we are. And we're getting little inklings of maybe that could happen. So let's just talk about what exactly is a constitutional crisis, and you understand exactly what I mean. Here's a definition. In political science, a constitutional crisis is a problem or conflict in the function of a government that the political constitution or other fundamental governing law is perceived to be unable to resolve. Resolutions, okay? There are several variations to this definition. For instance, one describes this as the crisis that arises out of the failure or at least strong risk of failure of a constitution to perform its central functions. The crisis may arise from a variety of possible reasons. For example, a government may want to pass a law contrary to its constitution. The constitution may fail to provide a clear answer for a specific situation. The constitution may be clear, but it may be politically infeasible to follow it. The government institutions themselves may falter or fail to live up to what the law prescribes them to be. Or officials in the government may justify avoiding dealing with a serious problem based on a narrow interpretation of the law. Specific examples include like South Africa. Y'all remember the colored vote constitutional crisis in the 1950, the secession of the Southern United States in 1860 and 1861, the dismissal of the Australian federal government in 1975, and of course the 2007 Ukrainian crisis. While the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland does not have a codified constitution, it deemed to have an uncodified one in issues and crisis in the UK, and its constitutes countries are prescribed as constitutional crises. Constitutional crises may arise from conflicts between different branches of government. We have that, right? Conflicts between central and local governments, or simply conflicts among various factions within society. In the course of government, the crisis results when one or more of the parties to a political dispute willfully choose to violate a law of the Constitution, or to flout an unwritten constitutional convention, or dispute the correct legal interpretation of the violated constitutional law or the flouted political custom. Get the picture? That is the definition of a crisis. We're not there yet. We are not there yet. But I want you to just read what JD Vance tweeted out. JD Vance tweeted this out. And we'll see what he says here. All right. Remember, we have the executive, we have the judicial, and we have the congressional offices of our branches of government. Is there one more? Judicial, our branches of government. All right. So here we go with this tweet. Let's see. JD Vance has tweeted this out. He says, if a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. If a judge tried to command the attorney general in how to use her discretion as a prosecutor, that's also illegal. Notice I use her That's because it's Pam Bondi's in there. And then here's what the one that really got everybody. Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. Oh, yes, they are. Oh, yes, they are. That is a branch of government that is allowed to do that. JD Vance. So for him to even put this tweet out and suggest otherwise is against the Constitution there in his, right now. For him to even suggest such a thing, it goes against the branches of government that we have controls, the checks and balances that are already there. All right. So let's see. Vice President JD Vance has recently expressed strong criticism of federal judges who have blocked certain initiatives of the Trump administration. He argues that the judiciary should not interfere with executive actions, suggesting that such interventions overstep the intended separation of powers. Vance has even implied that the administration might consider defying these judicial orders, liking the situation to scenarios where the executive branch exercises discretion. Wow. This stance indicates a potential shift toward challenging the traditional balance between the branches of government. If the administration chooses to disregard court rulings, it could lead to a constitutional crisis, right? Testing the limits of executive authority and the role of the judiciary in interpreting the laws. Such actions would have significant implications for the rule of law and the foundational principles of American governance. Wow. Can you believe that he would even put that out there? But he did. All right. Observers are closely monitoring these developments as they may signal a contentious period ahead in the relationship between the executive branch and the judiciary. The administration's approach to these legal challenges will be pivotal in determining the future dynamics of federal power and the enforcement. Oh my God. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is really crazy, guys. So now today, Trump did say something that was a little bit, he was in a press conference and someone asked him if the federal government judges tell him to do things, will he abide? He said he would. But I'll do it like I do everything else. I'll fight it in court. I'll appeal it, which is what you need to do. If a district judge says stop, put the payroll back, you need to do it. Follow the law. Follow the law. If you don't like it, that's fine. Joe Biden didn't like it when he stopped the forgiveness of the student loan debt. So he came up with a different way of doing it that was within his purview. You can't do it the way you're trying to do it. All right? Follow the law. That's all you got to do. And he said that he would do that. So that was a little glimmer of hope, even though JD Vance put this out. Trump and JD Vance seem to not be on one accord. And I think it's because he's not really talking to JD. He's talking to Assistant President Elon Musk about most things. So JD says stuff and has to come back and clean it up. And Trump he really disregards that poor guy. So after JD Vance's tweet and everything, a question was asked to Elon Musk about that. He was in the Oval Office, guys, and let's just talk about that. That was the most bizarre press conference I've ever seen. There's the Elon Musk in the Oval Office. Trump has yielded everything to Elon. He's talking to reporters, taking questions. Trump is sitting in his chair, and pretty much he's a spectator just like the reporters. And Elon is basically running the show. Very bizarre. And in addition, he had his little son there. A cute little boy. And he's climbing all over him. And he's sticking his finger in his ear. And he's picking his... It's just so funny. It was just the most bizarre press conference I've ever seen. But I want you to listen to what Elon Musk was saying here. Here we go.
So the... At a high level, if you say what is the goal of DOGE and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to. If you sorry, I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government. And if you have the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix.
Now he's talking about fixing the judicial branch of the government, that they have more power. They're unelected. They're appointed. They're appointed by president. They're codified by Senate. They are validated, and they're put in office. They're just not thrown in. They're just not put in there. There is a process, Mr. Musk, in America. They are not an unelected body of people that are doing their job. Lawyers bring cases to them. The judges hear them. They make a decision. Sometimes there's a jury, sometimes not. It depends on what it is. There's a grand jury. There's a process. There's a process. And Mr. Trump knows the process. So he can try all these things, but if a judge says stop, put the people back on payroll, then you need to do it, Mr. Trump. He said that he would. If he wants to appeal it and he wants to take things to the Supreme Court, which I think is what he's trying to do, because he's got his lackeys in there. So he's really wanting things to go there, but it's taking so much time. He doesn't want to deal with it because, he has a lot of experience with this, because the whole while during his trial, that's all he did. Stall and stall and stall. And that's all he's done in his companies. Stall and stall or sue me. Mr. Trump knows it's legal. He's always in there. Bankruptcy courts, everything. So to really now try to challenge the judicial system of our government is scary. And if they don't follow the rules of law, then we are going to be in a constitutional crisis. I'm just saying. Mr. Trump said he's not going to do that. So I'm going to trust him by his word. He said that. So we'll see what he does. But now back to this press conference. In addition to this press conference, the whole press conference was for Trump to let him talk about what he's doing in DOGE, DOGE, Department of Government Expenditures, or whatever it's called. I can't remember. I can't think of it. Anyway, DOGE. So here he is telling us all the stuff he has, and supposedly they found billions and billions of dollars of waste, and we're paying people in Social Security that have been dead, the people that are 150 years old, and this, and he's finding that people have been getting paid and getting rich, all without any facts. I mean, he can tell us anything. He's already goofed once, and he even said there in the conference about the thing that's going around about $50 million in condoms were sent to Gaza, which is not true. It wasn't that much of a number, and it wasn't just condoms. It was birth control. It was things. It was feminine project. It was a lot of things in that number that was sent, and it was not Gaza. It was Mozambique and parts of Africa, part of the USAID deal. So that was put out there, and he goes, yeah, I made a mistake. We're going to make mistakes sometime. And that's what the talking point is on all these Republicans, that Americans we're spending money out there and sending $50 million, and you can't stop a MAGA person from saying that. They will never listen to the truth. I don't care if it came out of God himself's mouth. They're still going to spout these theories that are incorrect. They don't believe in truths. He said he made a mistake. All right. He set the record straight. And thank God that reporter, I don't know where that reporter was from, was able to asked that question and he got an answer. So we have that on the record. The news teams have taken that and they're reporting on it. Great. So this was a very strange press conference. And if you have a chance, you need to go back and look at it. I was going to pull it and show it on this podcast, but I think I'll cover it another time because I want to see how things unfold. But let's just talk about, I don't mind, the American people don't mind about spending. I'm sure that we're spending things that we could probably do better as. Yeah, but let's just go through it. When I worked for a company, we would have expense cuts. I'm sure you have. When I was working in corporate America, when we were down in the brick and mortar, I mean, they would cut our travel. They would say we can't do this anymore. They would even cut glue sticks. I mean, it was just a process. I had a small budget, and when they told me I had to cut things, they looked at it and cut. That's the way you do it. Find the waste and get rid of it. You know what I mean? But don't put out all these conspiracy theories, lies, myths, truths. And if there is all this fraud going on in the Social Security and people getting checks, he probably found one instance. And there might have been something that slipped through the cracks. It has been known to happen. People die. And it takes the government a long time to get things on paper. It's always been that way. Government, anywhere, city government, municipal, it is paperwork. And you know how long it takes things to happen. That's government. It doesn't have to be that way. And he's a smart guy and he could fix some things. But do it the right way and quit using all of these photo ops to make the American people think you're finding this stuff and not giving the truth. Give us the truth. So at this point, all of those allegations that he made about some of the stuff that he found in his meetings of some of these departments, he has no fact. He hasn't given us anything. I don't know that he is. I don't know he made a commitment to give it to us. A lot of the news organizations like CNN and others have asked for the documents so that they have the receipts, if you will, of this stuff. And so we'll see how that unfolds. Because until we got proof, you're just talking, man. You're just talking, just like you said about the condoms. And you got that all over the place. You're just talking. So, dear Mr. Musk, we need you to do the right thing. We don't mind. I don't mind. Everything needs to be overhauled every now and then. That's just the way things work. The government is a giant business, and there may be some fluff that needs to be cut or whatever, but you're doing it the wrong way. Follow the law. Don't just cut everything off without understanding what you're doing. And remember, there are people involved here. You can't just get 10,000 people out of a job until you can figure out what you're doing. It's not right. So we just want you to do it right. That is all the American people are asking. That's what Congress is asking. And that is what the judges are telling you need to do. So that's that. So meanwhile, let's go ahead and talk about Ukraine. And here's what Mr. Trump said. He said, Ukraine may be Russian someday. Trump says ahead of the Vance-Zelensky meeting, the vice president is going to be meeting with President Zelensky. And he made this statement that, Ukraine just may be Russian. Okay, but they were Ukraine. And Russia came and invaded them. So now they're going to have to give up some of their land, or they're going to have to become Russian just because it was Russia that invaded them. And I'm telling you guys, anything that has to do with Putin, he's going to be soft on it. I don't know what those two have with each other, what is going on, but he's always soft on Putin. So I think, and this is just me thinking out loud, I don't have any proof of any sort, the guy that he just brought back from Russia, the Mr. Focal, the teacher that was released from Russia, they're not telling us what the deal was. There was a deal to get him back. Mr. Trump would not, he was asked that several times ago. I'm not going to talk about that right now. He wouldn't tell us. That was weird. So I hope the deal is not including Ukraine. You can get half of Ukraine. I'll talk to Putin. I don't know what that deal is, but we're supposed to find out. He said he's going to announce it tomorrow, and we'll see. I'm so glad that Mr. Trump got him back. We're happy. No American needs to be, I'm talking about the hostage, held in hostage for things that they shouldn't be held for. This guy was held for having some medical marijuana, which wasn't even large amounts, and he's over there for 3 years in a jail in Russia. And he was thankful to Mr. Trump, to President Trump, for bringing him back. And I understand that. Who wants to be in captivity? But this is what I don't like about the whole thing and bringing him back. Why did it have to be a photo op? Why did you have to bring the man? He brought him to the White House. Normally, they put them on the plane, guys. They take them to psychiatrists and psychologists to help debrief them. They take them to these places to get them mentally ready to come back into society. But no, he took the man straight from the plane over to the White House, where he's going to stay in the Lincoln Room. He's out there in the snow. A photo op. That's all he wanted. That's the stuff that makes me so angry with Mr. Trump. So let's see. What else did he say about Ukraine? Here we go. He says, President Trump suggests that Ukraine may be Russian someday, throwing into question the future independence of a sovereign country with Western backing, has defended itself against Moscow's full-scale invasion for nearly 3 years. Trump discussed his administration's effort to end the war in an interview Monday on Fox News, and ahead of the meeting tabled for this week between his Vice President JD Vance and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Ukraine, may make a deal. They may not make a deal. They may be Russian someday, or they may not be Russian someday, Trump said. He stressed that he also wanted to see a return on investment with U.S. aid for Ukraine, again floating the idea of a trade for Kiev's rare earth minerals. The U.S. president's comments would likely delight with Kremlin, which has illegally annexed 4 Ukrainian regions since launching its full-scale invasion and seeks Ukraine's total submission. Wow. A significant part of Ukraine wants to become Russia, and the fact that it already became Russia is undeniable, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters Tuesday when asked about Trump's comments. Ah, boy. So pretty much, I think that Ukraine is getting ready to get duped. I don't know what's going to happen to them, but it's not going to be good, guys, because, again, whatever Putin wants, Putin gets. And that's what's going to happen. And poor Zelensky, he's been trusting all these leaders to do things for him, but it's just not working out for poor Ukraine. We'll see what happens. All right. And meanwhile, welcome, guys, to the Gulf of America. Google, who of course is another one of his tech guys that came up, went ahead and did it. He says that they normally do anything that that has executive orders or laws are passed. So since Trump signed an executive order to change the name from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, it's done. On Google Maps, you will see it. But in other countries, they're going to see both. If they look at a map, they're going to see Gulf of Mexico and Gulf of America. And of course, the Gulf, any kind of thing in Mexico, they're still calling it the Gulf of Mexico. So now it's called the Gulf of America. All right. So what was that all about? I don't even know. Yes, I do. That's Trump's constant downing of the Mexican people. He hates Mexico. He's already called them, it's full of countries of rapists and people like that. He said that, remember? So that's just another hit at them. I told you, follow the money, follow the vendettas, follow the temper tantrum, and you will find Mr. Trump's real agenda. So there you go. And let's go over to the Pentagon, where dear Defense Secretary Hegseth bring back Fort Bragg name with a different namesake. I think it was called Fort Liberty or something else. They were, the whole deal of getting rid of all of the slave owners and Klansmen off of national buildings. They changed the name, and this is the stuff that's important to them, guys. Just erase anything that has to do with blackness or DER. They don't care that it's named after a racist person, Bragg. They don't care. So they put it back. This is what I'm saying. The little petty stuff. And then there is a photo op, of course. So there we have it. That's what's going on. Oh, one more good thing that we need to talk about is the the meeting Trump had with the King of Jordan. This was terrible. So Trump stands by his Gaza plan meeting in a meeting with Jordan King Abdullah. Yeah. So basically, he brought the king over. He wants these Middle Eastern countries to get in line. President Donald Trump made no attempt Tuesday to soften his proposal to relocate Palestinians in Gaza and redevelop the land into premium housing. Even as his guest in the Oval Office, King Abdullah II of Jordan suggested the Arab world was opposed. Trump repeated his view that Palestinians should be moved out of the devastated strips to parcels in third countries, including Jordan, despite the objections of those country leaders. They don't want, he's telling them what they need to do. And the president brushed aside questions about what authority the U.S. might wield to take control of the Palestinian enclave. It's not a complex thing to do. And with the United States being in control of that piece of land, a fairly large piece of land, you're going to have stability in the Middle East for the first time, Trump said in the Oval Office. Now, Mr. Abdullah, if you saw it, he was sitting next to Trump and did not outright reject the president's idea, but his discomfort with the plan was obvious as he indicated alternate proposals for Gaza would be forthcoming. I think we have to keep in mind that there's a plan for Egypt and the Arab countries, Abdullah said. So these guys don't want to do this stuff. And Trump is bullying everybody, and it's all because, America is the premier country, of course, the biggest military, everything. We are the leader of this natural world, the free world. So he's just bullying these countries, and I don't know what's going to happen, but it's brewing a lot of discomfort, and I don't know if he's going to get all these people to fall in line. I don't know. I hope there's no kind of war or conflict comes out of this stuff, but things are going to get crazy. So hold on to your belts, guys. Just hold on, right? And meanwhile, in an interview, this is something that's funny. Trump on JD Vance, when asked if JD Vance would be ready, he'd endorse him for, because when the 2 years comes up here in the midterms, they're going to be ready to start doing the president. And so the question was asked, is JD Vance ready? Let's listen to what Mr. Trump said.
Ever since Trump picked JD Vance to be his running mate and then, of course, now vice president, and is there in the East Room for a lot of press conferences or in the Oval Office for a lot of the key briefings or executive order signings. He's in Paris right now at the AI summit. And Trump was asked, does he view JD Vance as his successor in this political movement that he has created and very clearly has a firm grasp on? Trump had a very quick one-word answer when he was asked that question by Bret Baier.
Do you view Vice President JD Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I don't think that I think you have a lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
Now, if you report on Trump and talk to people who know Trump behind the scenes, that answer is not surprising that he outright said no. It may not be exactly what JD Vance's team wants to hear necessarily in a situation like this, but they'll argue, this has kind of been the question in this clip and save moment that happened right there is what happens in 2 years from now when the 2028 field is starting to take shape and Trump cannot run again, despite how he is jokingly mused in public about seeking a third term. And there are people running for that Republican primary, including, as we presume, JD Vance to be one of them. What does that moment look like, and if Trump endorses him? So obviously it's something to watch as this goes on. For right now, I don't think it's going to be some kind of rift in their relationship tomorrow, but certainly is a moment to watch going forward in terms of how this does shake out and who Trump does believe is the heir apparent for his MAGA movement.
Boy, he said no quick. Did y'all see that? No. He said it like that. No. I was like, wow. Tell us what you really think about JD Vance. JD, he's giving him all of this lackey stuff to do. And JD is pretty much has been out on Twitter, just going and retweeting and things. I said, is that all you have to do is Twitter? You don't have anything to do? At least Kamala had some jobs. We knew she was doing something. Of course, you guys said she did nothing. She was doing some stuff. But he's too busy having Assistant President Musk do everything. Poor JD's over here, having to have to correct himself because he keeps saying stuff against what Mr. Trump wants to say. So he's not in his good graces right now. So it's kind of strange that he said no so quickly. That was weird. I wonder how JD felt. He probably, in his own private time, had some words. I'm sure he had a little words with his wife about it, but we shall see. All right, now my last topic is talking about, I should say I got two more topics here that I want to talk about. One of them is the pauses on the federal grants by Trump. So these are some things that have been happening. So let's just read about what's going on with the federal grants and what the judges told him to put back. And they're slowly or not coming back. And there's one judge that's getting like a little antsy. When are you going to put them back? So in late January 2025, the Trump administration issued a memorandum through the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, to temporarily pause all activities related to the obligation or disbursement of federal financial assistance. The action aimed to review various programs, including foreign aid, diverse equity, and inclusion. However, essential services like Medicaid, Social Security, Medicaid care, and student loans were exempted from the freeze. The funding freeze led to widespread confusion among government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and beneficiaries of these grants. In response, several organizations and states filed lawsuits challenging the legality of the freeze. A federal judge temporarily blocked the implementation of the freeze, and the OMB subsequently rescinded the original memo. Despite this, there are reports that some federal funds remain frozen, prompting further legal actions. As of February 10th, 2025, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to immediately restore any frozen funding, emphasizing that no federal law authorizes executive branch's unilateral action in this matter. Therefore, the initial freeze was reversed. Ongoing legal proceedings and enforcement actions have been necessary to ensure the resumption of federal grants and loans. All right, so a judge told him to stop it, and they've been doing it slowly. I think they're trying to drag it out long enough so that they could see what happens, So I think that's what their strategy is. Let's just see what happens. So, but what you need to understand is that a lot of these things that they're doing are affecting people. I want you to listen to what's happening to this flower farmer who got a grant from the government for her farm and what is happening with her. So let's take a listen.
They're now on the hook to foot massive bills after President Trump ordered the Department of Agriculture to freeze spending for grants and loans promised under the Biden administration. The Trump administration, though, rescinded the pause less than 2 days later, but the farmers who need that money still feeling the impact. Maryland flower farmer Laura Beth Resnick is joining us now. First of all, just explain, what effect did this freeze and then the reversal of the freeze have on you? Are you still dealing with the consequences of this?
Yes, we are. We signed our contract with the government about a year ago to put solar panels on our barn. And about a year later, the project was complete, and we were supposed to get our funding the week that the funding freeze was announced. And we still haven't seen the money. And when we asked the government representative where it was and what we should do, they informed us that our funding request had been rejected due to the funding freeze.
Okay, so your funding had been approved, and then the freeze happened, it was rescinded, and now they're telling you it's been rejected. Do you have any understanding of why that is?
I don't. They haven't been in touch with us since they told us that, and they told us just to wait, and that there's a lot of moving parts and that no one's really sure what's going on. So it's a very stressful time.
Do you think this is part of the design of all this, is that they're saying, look, the freeze is no longer in place, but in fact, it is still in place, just more quietly?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just a farmer trying to do my work. I have no idea how these things work. I mean, We have relied on government grants before to build our farm. And, I started farming right out of college. I was 23 years old, didn't have a whole lot of money of my own. Farming, you don't make a whole lot. So, the profit margins are so slim. These government programs are just so important for helping new farmers and farmers who don't have, independent wealth to get going. So, in the past, there's been no problem with these government grants and loans, but this is the first time I've ever had anything like this.
What does, not getting the other half of that $73,000, which is nothing to sneeze at, mean to your business?
It's hard to even think about. We already have loans for building our farm. We bought our own farm after a decade of leasing land just a couple years ago. So we already have a farm service agency loan that allowed us to build heated greenhouses to grow our flowers during those winter holidays like Valentine's Day and Easter. So it's hard to imagine taking on more debt.
All right, so here's the deal, guys. It's going to start. Americans, we're going to start feeling this stuff. I mean, it's starting to hit certain people like the farmer. She's got a grant out there, and she probably put some of her own funds in there and was waiting to get her. That's not good. So that's why they're doing this crazy cut everything off effect, or it's not working. There is a way to manage these cuts. They could do it much more eloquently than they're doing and not affect people like they're doing. This lady's not a crook. She applied for a federal grant for her farm. It's something that the government does, and they gave it to her. They have these federal grants for small businesses, and they gave it to her. And they should keep up on the word. They approved it. And so it's just not fair that this is happening to people like that. And I feel bad for her. And as she says, I think that the flowers are more of a passion for her than money, because she said she didn't make a lot of money. So she's doing it but she's making a lot of people happy with her flower farm. And that's what she wants to do. And the government helped her. And I think it's just a travesty of what goes on here. All right. So my last topic, and we're going to talk about this. This is another bureau that the Trump administration is going after. And why? We'll talk about it. But this is the CFPB Bureau. Let's just talk about what that is. Okay, really quick here. All right. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a U.S. government agency responsible for protecting consumers in the financial sector. It was established in 2011 as a part of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act following the 2008 financial crisis. Y'all remember that? Key functions of the CFPB: regulates financial institutions, oversees banks, credit unions, payday lenders, mortgage services, other financial companies. And what is else? It enforces consumer protection laws, ensures companies comply with laws regarding fair lending, credit reporting, and debt collection. This is stuff that we care about, all right? Handles consumer complaints, investigate complaints about credit cards, mortgages, loans, and other financial services. Yeah, let me just pause this right here. So this company has done some good things, because I remember when Obama put this in, and it was at a point where we were getting charged for all kinds of crazy fees for credit card. It was just a fee for this, a fee for that, everything. Credit unions, financial institutions. I was buying my car through Santander, which is a lending agency for car financing. And just to pay online, if I wanted to pay online by using my checking account, they call it an ACH transaction. It wasn't a debit transaction. It was an ACH transaction, which is my checking account and whatever, which doesn't cost them anything from what I've heard. Those are free. They were charging me $10 if I did that. And if I called on the phone, it was like $15 or something like that. It was really crazy. So what happened after Obama put this in place, they had to pay me back. They sent back billions and millions of dollars back. So over the course of 2 years, I got it back of probably about $1,200. Just kept getting checks. I think the total was like $1,200 from all these times where I had it on automatic draft, but every time I paid, they were charging me $10. I just put it into the cost of the card because it was better than mailing a check. Who mails a check? And they had no other way that we could pay unless we got charged. That wasn't fair. So let me keep on going here. So it also provides financial education, helps consumers make informed financial decisions, fights unfair practices, cracks down on deceptive or abusive financial practices. Who does it help? The CFPB. Consumers facing unfair banking fees, fraud, or predatory lending. That's me, all right? People struggling with credit report errors or debt collection harassment. That's us. How many times the bill collectors? This helps us. Borrowers dealing with mortgage, student loan, or auto loan issues. You guys, we sign so many papers. There's so much small stuff. They just flip the paper. You're signing. You don't know what you're signing. You're trying to do the right thing. So we can file complaints with the CFPB. There's a way to file a complaint through the institution. This is a service that has been greatly used by consumers. So what are the motivations behind them going with this? So let's just talk about who created it. Obama created this. Let's just talk about Obama created this. And let's see. The President Barack Obama created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in 2011 as a part of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act. And basically, it was a key reason was creating the CFPB was presenting another financial crisis. You remember the big financial crisis that all those banks went under? And Barack had to go in there and the federal government had to bail it out, or we would have been in ruins. This was huge. Bear, I can't think of all the banks that did. It was several. 2008 crisis was caused by part of predatory lending practices, risky mortgage loans, and the lack of oversight in the financial industry. We have those balloon loans that were going on with mortgage. It was a mess. Millions of Americans lost their homes due to deceptive mortgage lending and foreclosure practices. You remember that? A lot of people started out with those small mortgages and they just went blup. It was crazy what they were doing. And there was just a big housing boom with all these builders. Y'all, it was just crazy. Protecting consumers from predatory practices. Before the CFPB, no single agency focused on this. I mean, protecting consumers from unfair banking fees, misleading credit card or payday loan traps. They were doing like plus 300,000 or what, $300%. I'm sorry. Up is what you were paying back. The CFPB was designed to hold banks, credit unions, payday lenders, and credit card companies accountable. All right, so Obama created this after that big deal. All right. So one of the main, let's see what the motivations are. All right. Elon Musk has publicly criticized this as one of the point posting. He called it, he put out there on Twitter, he put a CFPB RIP. So basically he was saying he's going to kill it. Why they don't like this, guys? Because it's regulatory. If you're doing good business, you don't have to worry about this. The CFPB established in 2011 has been a target for those advocating less federal regulations. All right. They don't like the regulatory actions. Government efficiency. Elon Musk's involvement through the Department of Government DOGE efficiency reflects a desire to streamline government functions, with the CFPB being a primary target. They've probably been looking into what he's doing. DOGE. What are what are you doing in your own company, Elon? He's probably been targeted. So I'm telling you, follow the vendetta. Follow the tantrum. Political philosophy. Both Trump and Musk have expressed belief that certain federal agencies like CFPB hinder economic growth and innovation through excessive regulation. They don't like regulation because they are pretty much little crooks and they try to skirt the system. That's what they do. All right. The dismantling of CFPB could lead to reduced customer protections in the financial industry, potentially increasing the risk of predatory practices. Critics argue this move prioritizes deregulation over consumer rights, while supporters believe it will foster a more efficient and less intrusive government. I'm sorry, government. Yes, I want this. This is an agency that I think consumers want. A lot of people don't know that this exists, and that the reason why banks stopped doing things like they were doing, or the payday loans couldn't charge you 300% interest, is because this agency has been there, and they're always looking at companies and their practices, because some of them have been kind of sneaking back in. Some of those banks figured out how to get some of those fees back in there legally, And they're being challenged again with some of those fees. I mean, we were getting charged a process fee for what? Processing this, processing that. You know, we have enough fees at banks as it is. And thank God that Barack Obama made this independent agency that has been for the consumer. Why is this agency being looked at? Why? Because it's regulatory. And the other thing is because it is Barack Obama created it. So there's the petty part. Trump hates Barack so bad. He wants to be loved like Barack is loved from America so bad that he'll do anything to destroy anything that he's created. That is true. So I'm telling you, follow the money, follow the tantrum, follow it, follow the vendetta, and you'll see why they're targeting the agencies that they're targeting. Yeah, all right. So I already told you what happens if this agency goes away. Let's just really see some of the other stuff. If it goes away, guys, there's going to be increased risk of predatory lending. Can you imagine? It's going to open up the gates. You already get scams of things of people trying to get money. It's going to open up the gates. Lenders may return to offering risky, high-cost loans that disproportionately affect lower-income borrowers. This is our protection. Why are you messing with it? If you want to check and see what they're doing, you want to slough off some stuff, maybe they're spending too much money on paper and glue sticks, and cut it out. You know? But do it right. But don't go in here and just say you're going to dismantle this when it is a consumer protection agency. We need this agency. Payday lenders could go back to 300%. They could do it. There's no regulation says they can't. Less protection against banking and credit card fees. They can go back and charge us out of the yin yang. If you call in and do a transaction, they can charge you a transaction fee. They were charging us if we do it on phone. It's going to cost you this if you do it on the phone. But if you do it on the app, it's going to, all that kind of stuff. You know, that's just excessive fees they're making money off of. They can do something like that and get a few million, a cool few million by just putting that in place. There's going to be a weaker consumer complaint system. This has all been put into one agency. It was spread around in others, but President Obama put it here so it's easy. Consumers may have no single federal agency to turn to when scammed by banks, lenders, or debt collectors. For example, the CFPB helped 29 million people recover $12 million from financial companies that broke the law after this was put in place. I was one of those. The CFPB prevented predatory mortgage lending by to verify borrower ability to repay before approving loans. So they were approving loans so people couldn't even pay these loans. Risky mortgage loans like those that led to the 2008 financial crisis could make a comeback. Yeah. Like, for example, before the CFPB, lenders pushed subprime mortgages on people who couldn't afford them, leading to mass foreclosures. I remember when everybody was getting a house. I was like, how you get a house? I mean, these people, Bitmo didn't have any, there was no reason for them to have a house. Not to say they didn't, but they were getting these little small mortgages, and next thing you know, kapaya, they were paying $2,000 a month from going from like $400 or $500. But they didn't know what they were signing. They didn't know. And these companies are going to get their money regardless. Right. So in 2017, the CFPB fined Equifax $700 million after it leaked a bunch of our information. Do you remember that? Okay. So this is the agency that we're talking about. This is the agency, guys. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And they are going after it hard. So you need to know what it does. You need to know what it does. And find out what is the waste. I just don't think he likes this agency because Obama created it. And also because it puts regulations on their companies and all their little deals. Backdoor deals and whatever. Okay? So there you have it. Now, I just want to say one thing before I end this podcast is that I don't want to appear to feel like that everything that Donald Trump does is not good. I mean, if he were to find excessive spending, and he said a statement in the press conference, Assistant President Musk said it. He said that if we find this spending, we can put it back on mortgages and home. Yes, go with it. If you find a bunch of money to put back into the economy for the American people, I am all for you and what you're doing. But so far, guys, we have to watch, because I just don't trust them to do the right thing. If President Trump was in there doing whatever, I don't care if he's Republican or Democrat, if he's doing the right thing, I am with him. I am with him. But everything that he's doing right now, I mean, it's so vengeful, and it's so transparently obvious as to why he's doing what he's doing. And he's pretty much just ignored the American people. And I'm so sick of them saying that you guys voted for this. Those of you that voted for Donald Trump, you voted for this? I know you wanted government reform. I know you don't like sending stuff over. I'm talking about MAGA. I know you don't want to have to send stuff over to other people in other countries. You say we need to keep it over here. We know that, okay? But there's a way to do this stuff. And I'm sorry, until Donald Trump is showing us that he's doing the right thing, following the law, and doing a real, exercise or overhaul of the government spending, it's fine. Do it the right way. That is all we are saying. Follow the law. All right. That was a lot. So there we go, guys. Another day in the world of the Trump administration. The first one, I know the reporters in the first administration, they couldn't get any sleep. But right now, they're not sleeping at all, because things are coming in quickly as possible. Over here, over there. And it's hard. And it's hard for us podcasters as well. But always know that if you come here to Let's Talk with Carl E. Long, I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to give you a little bit of opinion as well. But I want you to know what's going on. And if anything, I'm going to keep telling you, write your congressman. You can email them. You can call them. They have voicemail. If you are not agreeing with anything that's going on, that's important. They have to know the American people are listening and understanding. We're not as dumb as they think we are. Some of us are out here watching what's going on. But if you're one of those that don't care about this kind of stuff, it's time to care. It's time to care. All right? So let's get going. Let's keep our country the democracy that it is and the greatest place in the world to live. And everyone, you have a great day, a great week. And if you want to know what the tone of the country is, take a scroll on X. They're always saying that this isn't a racist country. Guys, go to X, spend a day on X, and just read some of the stuff that people say. It hurts me. It hurts me that we have that kind of hate still in our country. It hurts me. And if you're really bold, download the Truth Social app. Oh my God. I couldn't even look at it. 5 minutes. I took it off my phone. It was just that horrible. But that's just me. Oh well. So thank you so much for joining Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. Check out some of my other podcasts. And wherever you listen to podcasts, I will be there. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye now.